Hello, and welcome to What the Hell Just Happened. I'm your guest host, Professor Wilhelm Von Abfuhrgessen from the University of Heidelberg. This week we celebrate the 100th anniversary of the passage of the 19th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, which gave the right to vote to all Americans regardless of gender. This was also called women's suffrage. You may well ask, didn't women suffer prior to 1920? This is, of course, the wrong question and shows you are ignorant and need to learn the derivation of the word. So it's good you have my help today. Suffrage comes from the Latin word suffragium, which literally means voting tablet. This word was later redefined by the men who write dictionaries as, if we let you vote, we get to blame you for everything. In 18th century America, the right to vote was guaranteed to almost everyone. The only people who were not allowed to vote were women, also slaves, Native Americans, people of color, and persons who did not own land. The American women's suffrage movement begins in the year 1848 at a convention held in Seneca Falls, New York. At this time, two charismatic leaders emerged in the suffragist movement named Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Susan B. Anthony. You might recognize them from their commemorative postage stamp and coin, since that is the only honor they receive from your government. Both were ardent abolitionists and so, naturally, wished to extend the idea of liberation to women. The principles introduced at this convention evoked almost immediate interest after only 50 years. The women who fought for this right became known as suffragettes. The suffix of this word has later been used to define every popular backup singing group of women, like the Ikettes and Marvelettes, but I digress. As a strategy, the women's suffrage movement aligns themselves with the white male population, which was logical, since they were married exclusively to them. However, even early on, black women formed their own political groups to push universal suffrage in the hopes that in time, they too would reap the rewards of liberty and justice. This was almost as optimistic as opening up public schools during a pandemic and hoping for no infection. In the early 20th century, women from the sororities of historic black colleges and universities took up the cause. One such sorority was Alpha Kappa Alpha of Howard University. However, even after the passage of the 19th Amendment in 1920, Jim Crow laws were firmly in place. African Americans, and particularly black women, faced obstacles that essentially prevented them from voting for yet another 50 years. The amendment did not pass easily because in the final vote needed to ratify it, there was a tie, 48 to 48, and it all came down to a 24-year-old Tennessee legislator named Harry Burns, who told his colleagues he planned to vote it down. However, his mother had written him a note the night before imploring him to vote yeah. When he arrived on the floor of the legislature, he reread the note and broke the tie in favor of the amendment. Women can be very persuasive, especially if it is your mutti. Native Americans received full citizenship under the Schneider Act in 1924. However, they were not able to vote in all states until 1964. Perhaps this betrayal by the government is the origin of the term Indian giver. We do not know. After World War II, many countries adopted universal suffrage. Japan and China gave women the vote in the late 1940s. Indonesia and many African nations adopted it in 1960s. Switzerland, who always knew what time it was, but apparently not what year, gave women the vote in 1971, which is kind of cuckoo. And the European Principality of Liechtenstein jumped on the universal freedom train in 1984, years after it had left the station. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and Kuwait, both clients and allies of the U.S., still do not allow women to vote, although they do support capital punishment of women, so at least they've evened the playing field in that regard. And do you know what the hell just happened last week in America? The first woman of color, Senator Kamala Harris, herself an alumna of Howard University's famous Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority, was nominated to run as Democrat Joseph Biden's running mate. This proves that no matter how far we think we have come in our history, we still have many frontiers to cross and obstacles to overcome. I, for one, will be keeping a close eye on the American national election in 3 months, and if called upon, I would be happy to sing Senator Harris's praises. I guess that would make me a Kamalette. Keep on, Kamala. Yeah, I know, I have to practice more. Thank you for traveling with me across history today, and we hope to see you in the future. Auf Wiedersehen for now.